I flipped 1,000 houses on the courthouse steps. I kind of invented an industry there. I was a home builder, and then the housing market crashed, and I went from, making, it's essentially 6 figures plus a year right out of college. We were golfing a couple days a week to all of a sudden we laid off 70 out of 75 people, and we were trying to start a new business. Trying to buy REOs, but we couldn't get our offers accepted. We discovered courthouse step foreclosures, and no one was doing it. And then pretty quickly said, like, wait, this is something that I can do at scale. I can run it like a home builder. So from 2012, I flipped 1,000 houses, buying on the courthouse steps, fixing, selling. We had giant real estate teams, construction teams, warranty teams. And 2012, these guys from Blackstone came out and met with me. And they were like, hey, we're getting into the single family rental industry. We think buying at auction there's great values out there. You should come work for us. Come work for us, shut down your company, come be our employee. And I should have Googled, like, who is Blackstone? Because they literally said, hey, if you don't come to work for us, we'll put you out of business. It's not like we're coming. And I was like, I was young, early 20s. I was kind of self-made at that point. And I was like, you're not going to put me out of business. Like, even if we just get our commissions from last month, essentially I thought that I was unstoppable. And in 2012, they put me out of business. Right. So from 2009 to 2012, I flipped houses, right? Did really well. From 2013, essentially to 2015, I was scrambling, trying to figure out what to do.
What did they do to put you out of business?
Essentially bought everything that was on the market. So so when they said they were coming to buy rentals, I was like, well, I kind of looked at the houses that I bought over the last month or two, and I was like, well, this wouldn't be a good rental. This wouldn't be a good rental. This wouldn't be a good. So now they're not going to really compete with this because these rentals would only make like 1% a year. They're not going to beat. But I didn't understand their business plan because they said they were in the single family rental space. But the way they put me out of business is they bought everything that was at auction. And at that time I had, 20 employees and company cars and health plans. And every morning we'd come pick up cashier's checks. They would drive to auctions and you'd get outbid. It was normal to like have a week where you'd have a dry run, right? So it was like, you just keep going, right? You're like, okay, we didn't get one. But then after 6 months of like going to auction and not being able to bid, they bought every single house at auction. They bought every single house on MLS. Over like a 4 or 5 month period. And by the time they were done, like 6 months later, housing prices had gone up like 40 to 45% in Northern California.
Damn.
Because they bought everything and they pushed the demand up. And then they did these giant cash out refis and then I was like, oh, that was the plan. So they were doing single family rentals, but their way to make money wasn't actually net cash flow. It was buying something for a deal, which really helped me later when I started doing that. But like I started getting into real estate on my own 2009, and then 2013 to 2015 essentially was broke. Went from making a couple $100,000 a month to like trying to figure out how to pay my bills. I remember, early 2015, like applying to be an Uber driver and like a building inspector. And I was like, no, I just need to get a regular job to keep it so I don't essentially lose my house in foreclosure, which would have been the most ironic, thing ever. I ended up at an auction out here in Texas.
How did you end up with that?
So the only good investment I bought in like 2010, I bought an apartment complex in a town called Killeen, Texas, just about an hour north of here. Yeah. And I only bought that because one of our investors said like, hey, I bought this apartment last year, essentially for like 1.4 million. And he's like, I really just need to get rid of it. And the cash flow looked good on paper. When I went and toured it, it was so bad. I said, hey, the most I could give you was like 300,000. You should just list it on MLS. And he ended up selling it to me for 300,000.
Okay.
That was one of the incomes I had during that time. So 2015, the broker that was on that deal shoots me an email and says, hey, there's a complex across the street from your other unit that's for sale right now. Here's the call everything on it. And so I'm like, all right, I'll look at it. And on the title report, it said was scheduled for foreclosure, had a notice of default on it. And it was scheduled for foreclosure in like 2 weeks. And I'm like, well, this is interesting because I have the rent rolls and all the items on it. So when I was broke, I still had a line of credit left from when we did go out of business. We dealt with our investors good, our bankers good. So when it was ready, so I came out in 2015 to an auction, and he comes up to sell the complex. I had brought enough money. It ended up going for like 320,000, and I got cold feet. She's like, would you like to bid? I was there for that one. I flew for that one.
Yeah.
And she goes, once going sold. And I'm like, I don't buy. And I'm sitting there going like, what just happened?
It's frozen.
Yeah, I was frozen. I got cold feet because I hadn't been successful in like a few years.
Okay.
I said, what if I forgot? Like no one else is here bidding on it. What if I forgot how? What if I missed something? Like first time in Texas. So then I'm sitting there like pretty sad. like going like, man, I couldn't afford the flight on Southwest to get out here. Now I got to go home. And another trustee comes up and starts selling houses at auction.
Were you married at the time?
I was.
So you're married at the time. You were kind of at a rock bottom place.
Yeah.
Yeah. You went out here to pick something up and to get the bacon, so to speak. You went home empty handed.
Yeah.
What did that conversation look like?
Well, it was funny because right before, after that, I cleaned and I said, man, I didn't bid on it. She goes, what happened? I said, I didn't bid on it. She's like, what? I said, I got cold feet. And she's like, we couldn't even afford the flight for you to get out there. So while I'm sitting there sulking at auction, I hang up the phone. I haven't left yet. A trustee shows up and he starts selling houses, and they're selling for like $30,000 or $40,000 a piece. And I look around and nobody's standing there.
Yeah.
And he sells like 30 houses to nobody. Essentially, when they say the opening bid, if nobody buys it, it goes back to the bank. And I said, oh my God, this is like California 2009. Like when I went broke in 2012, when I started in California in 2009, there was 3 people at auction and hundreds of houses selling.
Yeah.
When I got put out of business by Blackstone, there was hundreds of people bidding on like a few houses at the end. And I had all these mantras of, if I ever get another chance, I'll do this different, this different, this different. So I remember sitting there going like, oh, I must have learned my lesson, because here's my other chance. This is like I'm getting a redo. I'm getting a redo of seeing, again, an industry in a market where no one else is aware of it. And then I was sad I didn't get the apartment.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of hope.
You're still here.
Then flew home.
Oh, you flew.
Because
Okay,
auction happens once a month.
right. Okay, got it.
So auction happens once a month. And so then the next month I fly out on Friday.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to do this. So I do my system. I drive all the houses. I comp them. I do title. I show up at auction on that next Tuesday and I buy 2 houses.
Wow.
And I drive to Home Depot and I go buy a drill and a lockbox.
Yeah.
And I turn on electricity on the way there so I can charge the drill outside for a minute. I drill the lock on the front door so I can change the locks, because the moment you win an auction, and I open the door and the house had never been lived in. It was built a year prior, and who bought it never ended up moving in. So I had a brand new house.
Yeah.
I paid $114,000 for it. It was a 3,000 square foot house with granite counters and stainless appliances, brand new, up and clean. And I sold it for like $270,000 a month later. And I was like, I'm back. So the crazy part, so the big difference, I remember I'd flipped 1,000 houses and went broke. And I remember thinking, man, if I'd have just kept 100 of those houses, I'd have been set for life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If the method was totally opposite. I started coming out every month. I'd buy 10 houses. I would flip just enough to pay my bills and be a down payment for the others. And then I would put renters in the others and just hold them. And just said, this time I'm going to do long-term holds. I also said prices will never go up in Texas. I'm tired of riding the big old wave. I just want nice and steady, nice and easy.
Wow. Yeah. You really had a ton of lessons from what you learned in the past.
Yeah.
To get where you're at today. And it's a strong reflection of the two processes.
Yeah.
Right? It's amazing.
The benefit of losing really, really bad. Like, you make a ton of money and you lose it all, and like just sulking in that regret, every little thing you did wrong. If I would have Googled Blackstone, if I would have tried to do a little bit more research of like, if I'm like, hey, their business plan isn't going to work. If I would have just done a little bit more research on something else, right? Or if I would have held a couple of the rentals, if I'd have had less staff, if I would have fired people sooner, like all these things, you get to reflect. Because I sat for 2 years going, again, I was super wealthy and then super broke. And so you go so you're sitting in pain.
Oh yeah.
Dude, you will learn your lesson.
It's like being in prison, a mental prison.
Yeah.
And all you have time to do is think.
All you have time to do is think. And so then you need these crazy lessons. So failure is the best way to learn something, but extreme, painful failure is how you learn something to where you go like, I don't want to do that again. And it helps you be more aware when stuff was happening. So it helped me when I got my second chance, that I had really been just waiting for a second chance and had so much time to reflect on essentially my mistakes.